Hey everyone, Matthew Waitful here. I just wanted to record a brief testimonial about my work with Iboga medicine. Now, prior to working with Iboga, I've worked with a lot of other sacred plant medicines such as ayahuasca, psilocybin, San Pedro, 5-MeO-DMT, Hape, Kambo, and I can say that this was by far the most profound experience that I've honestly ever had in my life. I first worked with this medicine in 2022, and I went for a week-long retreat that consisted of 2 different ceremonies. And I'm not going to go into detail about my ceremonies, but overall, the biggest thing I noticed was this medicine is so grounding, and it brings you back and roots you into who you truly are. And I started to realize that throughout my life, I had been identifying with things that weren't really me, patterns that my mind had created based on what I've experienced in life so far. And these patterns were not serving me anymore. They were actually holding me back. My main issue I dealt with most of my life was just depression, feeling like I don't fit in, not knowing what my quote-unquote purpose in this life is. And as soon as I worked with Iboga, it got me very clear. It allowed me to not identify with these mental thought patterns anymore that I had created, and it allowed me to really root back into who I am, my spirit or my soul. And from there, I was able to accept myself exactly as I am. And I realized that I'm perfect exactly as I am, and there's nothing wrong with me. The only thing wrong with me was I wasn't identifying with myself. What this medicine does is it detoxes your mind. It gets rid of all of these looping thoughts and provides some clarity. And prior to this, I've done a lot of 10-day Vipassana meditation retreats. I'm very comfortable sitting with myself in silence, and I realized that even throughout all that, I still was playing out these same patterns that didn't serve me. This medicine also really detoxified my body. Throughout a lot of my depression, that led to a lot of drinking and using marijuana to just kind of numb things and to try to fit in, honestly. And once I was physically detoxed and mentally detoxed, I came out of this retreat truly loving myself. And I think that's at the core of everything. No matter what we're going through, we need to really learn radical self-love. And I understand now that self-love is not, what I thought it was. Truly loving yourself means creating a life around who you are. I knew that I needed to be sober, but this detoxed me enough to really connect with myself again and know that these substances I was using were only adding to my confusion and only adding to me identifying with my mind. And really loving myself means making the hard choices and not playing out the same patterns. Now, coming out of retreat, I felt so good, and it was easy to, live a life of sobriety. And, I started really accepting what I want in life. And I started to push myself out of my comfort zone. I started my own business. I started a new relationship with an amazing partner, more in aligned with myself. And it allowed me to really build the life that I could be happy with. And instead of chasing things that I used to think would make me happy, that at the end of the day didn't. It left me empty and wanting more. And so Iboga is the most powerful self-reflection tool I've ever encountered. since that experience, it's led me on a path of wanting nothing more than to be able to lead ceremony and offer this to other people. I know that throughout our life we develop these neural pathways in our brain based on how we think or the actions we do, and it's almost subconscious. It can seem like there's not really a way to change it. But doing something like this really helps to wipe that neural slate clean and allow you to make different choices that align with who you truly are. And once you know who you are, you know what you want in life. After all, this is root medicine. It's very grounding, and it really did root me into who I am. And now I'm not afraid to be myself anymore. I'm not afraid to stand up for myself and to set appropriate boundaries with people who are not honoring who I truly am. And it allowed me to just get really crystal clear and focus on myself. And I realized that that's what self-love is. It's truly putting yourself first and creating a life around who you know you are at your core. So yeah, it was the most life-changing thing I've experienced. It wasn't easy. Ceremony is very difficult. Sometimes you have to see things you don't really want to see. It can be very physically uncomfortable, very mentally uncomfortable. But you come out of it truly letting go of these things and with a clear mind and a clear path of what you want. And it's not easy when you get back to your life. You might have to make some major changes. For me, luckily, I've already been living in a way that mostly aligns with who I am. I just had to really get disciplined with myself and my day-to-day actions and routine and not allow myself to sink back into those old patterns, because anything can show you who you are, but it's still up to you to fully embody that. This is the closest I've found to like a reset, a magic pill, but it's not that at all. You still have to go do the work yourself. No one else is going to do it for you. And so it really showed me personal accountability, and now I take accountability for the people in my life, the way I show up, the job that I do. And because of that, now I am on a path and things are just really falling in place and aligning for me. And even when things don't work out how I want, I have this trust that no matter what happens, I'm unshakable and things will work out, because the universe is always aligning for what's best for me. I just have to accept sometimes that I don't know, and then I can look back years later and see, wow, that had to work out that way, because if it didn't, I wouldn't be who I am today and I wouldn't be where I am. If something doesn't work out you want, it's not because you don't deserve it, it's because there's something better coming your way, and you've got to be patient and trust the process. So overall, this was very life-changing. I'm always open to having conversations if anything I say really does spark your interest. So thank you for listening. Sending so much love, and have a beautiful day.